And let's continue on with InDesign. We're going to start the placing content into our document portion, or what it's called in InDesign is linked files. Before we get started, I would like to reiterate the point that once you start placing content, linking files into your document, do not move where they live. Make sure you have everything organized before you get started and that it lives on your computer's hard drive. Do not work from an external disk or an online cloud storage such as Dropbox, Google Drive, etc. Just to show you what I have here is I have a top level folder that is my IDmin blurb demo folder. Inside of that folder, I've saved the InDesign document that we've already been looking at, and I also have another folder with all of the images or content, collateral, that I'm going to use within this document as placed or linked files. There is a address to a PDF of all of these images in the description of this video. If you're going to follow along using that PDF, just ensure that after you go to place and you get that dialog box, you check show options and then scroll through to the appropriate page for the image that we're currently working with. Okay, so don't move stuff around after you get started. Enough said about that. So let's get back to our document where we left off last time. We'd just put our page numbers onto our master page, and opening my pages palette, I'm going to double click here on the thumbnail for page 1. I'm going to fit that to my screen, which is Control-0 on a PC or Command-0 on a Mac. Page 1, when it comes to books, I generally use as an inside cover. So we are going to look at placing an image here for right now, and there are two ways that you can place images into InDesign, images or any kind of graphic content file. Right? The first thing that we're going to look at is the frame tool, specifically the rectangle frame tool. It's in about the middle of the toolbar on the left-hand side. Looks like a rectangle with an X through it. And you're just going to drag this out like a shape, or, as we'll see later, a text box. Loosely, I'm going to work here on my grid 3 columns over and 4 columns wide, 5 columns tall. I'm going to go back to my selection tool, and you'll see that I have my frame selected. With my frame selected, I'm going to go to File, Place. It should be just about right in the middle. In InDesign, the shortcut for that is Control-D, or on a Mac, Command-D. And that's going to bring up our Place dialog box. If you're following along with the PDF, make sure you have this Show Import Options checked. And actually, we're going to check that. It's best just to leave that checked, and we'll see why a little later on. Okay, in the images here, we want Despicable Me. Looks like this. And I'm going to click Open with that selected. It's going to show my dialog box. All of this is cool. It's not a multi-page. We're not swapping things, so just going to hit OK. And you can see that InDesign dropped our image into our frame. All right, we will look at different ways to adjust this after we look at the other way to place items. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I'm going to go back to File, Place. It's going to bring up my same dialog box. I'm going to navigate back to that same Despicable Me file. I'm going to hit Open. My import options are OK, so I'm going to hit OK. And now you can see, similar to placing an image into Illustrator, it's showing me a pointer and it's showing me a thumbnail of the image that it is going to place into my document. Two things you can do from here. If you just click and release on the artboard, InDesign will drop the image in at the largest size it can be for print resolution. So if you are somewhat unsure about your files, it's a good practice just to click, let it come in as large as it can be, and then adjust the size from there. I'm going to undo, Control Z or Command Z on a Mac, back to my pointer and thumbnail. The other option that you have available to you for placing is to click and drag. It will pull out proportionally, and when you let go of the box, it will fill with the image. So those are the three ways to place imagery into InDesign. I'm going to leave this selected. I'm going to open up my links palette over here on the right hand side, and what it's showing you is in the top half it's going to show you all of the files that are linked into your document. It'll show the name, it'll show the page number. If I actually navigate away from this page and then go back to my links, and for this Despicable Me link here that I just highlighted, if I click on the page number, if I hover, you can see I get a little hand pointer. If I then click, it will take me to that link. Okay, I'm going to click off to deselect. So let's look at resizing and some of the kind of cool functionality about InDesign as pertains to these links. All right, if I just click on the image, you can see that, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. You can see that my bounding box or frame, and you want to think about this just like a picture frame. This is a frame, and there's actually an image behind it. When the frame is blue, that is just the frame, and it is independent of the image. So what that means is it can be bigger. If you hover over one of the corners, get the flat double-headed arrow, and then double-click, InDesign will automatically size the frame to the image it contains. And also what you can do is you can use the frame as a crop on your images. So perhaps I actually want this cropped in a little bit smaller, somewhere in this neighborhood. If I really want to keep things to my grid, I can bring this up to the top of my gutter here on this column beneath, and that's how to crop using the image frame. Now, like I said, you want to think about this just like a picture frame. So the blue is the actual frame, and we can, as we just saw, crop and manipulate to that frame. If I click here in the middle of the devil's donut, on the darker circle in the middle, you can see my pointer turns into a hand. If I click and hold, notice that the outline is dark orange and that it's showing me a faded preview of the entire image, even the parts that are outside of the frame. So you can drag this around and move it wherever you would like. Maybe for right now it goes there. And you can see that's a way to move your image on the inside. Also, if I have the image selected, not the frame, again, dark orange bounding box, if I go to one of the corners, I get the flat double-headed arrow. I'm going to hold down Shift so this scales proportionally, and this is one way I can resize my image within that frame. And then if I go ahead and drag it back out and see where it is, now you can see I have it sized so that it just fits. All right. I'm going to move this out of the way and in a weird place. I'm going to click off to deselect, and then I'm just going to drag a selection just so it touches the edge of my frame. All right. So we're back to the blue bounding box, which means we only have the frame selected. I'm going to right-click inside of my frame. In the middle of my right-click menu is Fitting. You have some options here. Right here in the middle is Center Content. That will not change the size, it will just center the content within the frame. I'm going to right-click again, go back to Fitting, and I'm going to hit Fill Frame Proportionally. That will fill the frame based on the shortest measurement, width or height of the frame compared to the shortest measurement, width or height of the image. I can also right-click, go back to Fitting, Fit Content Proportionally. This will make the image the largest size it can be that the frame will be able to display the entire image. So, play around with these. The fitting is especially useful when you set up a group of frames as a layout on a page and then start placing images into them. I think for my purposes here, notice I just clicked on the Devil's Donut. I got the orange box so that I could address the size of my image. I'm actually going to move this up and manually size it so that it goes to my margin and completely fills my frame. And that is the beginning of making links a very useful tool and getting content into your